let's just start with the beginning of your swim career. How old were you? Was it something that your parents included you in? Did your family have any history with swimming, or was this kind of something that was just for you?
Yeah. So my mom actually teaches swimming, so I got into swimming at a very young age. I think I was around the pool learning to swim from pretty much crawling age. So I think my mom said I learned to swim before I could walk. So I was in and around water very young. I also had I've got three older sisters. My middle sister, she was a really good athlete. She swam, and then she did triathlon. She competed at a very high level. She went to Worlds for triathlon for Zimbabwe as well. So yeah, swimming has always been kind of like part and parcel of our family. My mom's obviously teaching, and then my sister had it as part of her sporting career too.
And then,
in fact, her now husband, he was like a huge inspiration for me. He was a really good Zimbabwe swimmer. He was like super involved.
how was your childhood in Zimbabwe?
Definitely different to what I think most Americans go through. My early childhood, Zimbabwe was pretty stable. And then with the economic crash that I think started in like 2005, where we had hyperinflation, things got very different. So, my parents dealing with having to import, basic goods, and I went to a private Christian school for my primary school, and then I went to boarding school for high school, a really good swimming school in South Africa.
And then, when I think of stereotypical Africa, it doesn't seem to be the scenario that you grew up in. How does it differ?
Yeah. So I think stereotypical Africa is there definitely is that part of Africa. The wilderness and small villages, and then in the cities where I grew up, Harare, it's like a small city. It's actually not very different to Lexington, where I live now. So a small city kind of lifestyle in terms of things to do, and friends and family and community. It's very similar to that, actually.
So you seem to have a British accent. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so Zimbabwe was originally a British colony. So pretty much all of the white people that have stayed were former families of British descent or European descent. So there's still a big British influence in the schooling system, as well as Portuguese and some other colonial era accents, and it's a bit of a melting pot now. Yeah.
How many countries have you been to?
I actually got asked this recently, and I'm not entirely sure. I just was home for Christmas, and I managed to get my old passports, and I need to go through and count all the stamps, but I think it's somewhere around 30 to 40, somewhere in that range. A lot of traveling.
Is that all because of swimming, or did you travel a lot growing up? What is travel like within the continent of Africa? Do you travel as you would in the American states, or is it different?
So a large part of it is from competing. Most meets would have been outside of Zimbabwe. So to go to any higher level competition would have been outside of Zimbabwe. My family also did quite a bit of traveling. Just I think in America, as an American, if you want to travel, you just go to a different state. But because America's so big, you can go skiing, we can go to the beach. You can, there's so much variation just staying inside the United States. whereas Zimbabwe, you pretty much you're kind of limited to those options. So our family did quite a bit of traveling when we were growing up. In terms of traveling inside of Africa, it's a bit different to traveling in the United States, just in the sense that driving anywhere out of Zimbabwe, it becomes very difficult. The roads are not going to be so good. So what would be a 6 or 7 hour drive in America is going to be a 12, 13-hour drive once you add in all the potholes and traffic and border crossings. It's a much slower process, a much longer process. And then most African countries will require, as a Zimbabwean, for you to have a visa. Because of the crash Zimbabwe experienced in 2008, a lot of Zimbabweans fled the country, and so they would go to another country and then just stay. So Zimbabwe's got a terrible reputation because of that, where now pretty much anywhere you go, you're going to need a visa.
So you needed a student visa anyway to get out of the country and study at Kentucky. So that
Yes, so,
that process was familiar to you.
Yeah, so even when I went to boarding school in South Africa, I needed a student visa to go to boarding school, and then when I was coming to the States, I had to get the visa process.
Can you work through the process of getting recruited to Kentucky from South Africa?
Yeah, so I was really lucky, actually. Looking back, so many things lined up for me to be able to come to UK, because I did not know the system. I didn't know how the process of speaking to universities worked. I thought I was a lot better than I was, so I was aiming at one level and getting attention from a different level. So when I started the recruiting process, which I started late, I didn't realize that most of the recruiting gets done at sophomore, junior year, and I was starting the application process pretty much halfway through my senior year. So I left it really late, and then when I started the recruiting, I started emailing a bunch of coaches, and I heard back from a couple of universities. I heard back from Auburn and Indiana, and I really wanted to go to Auburn. There was a really great Zimbabwe swimmer who won a gold medal for 200 backstroke at the Olympics. I think in 2004 and 2008, Kirsty Coventry. And so she swam at Auburn, so I wanted to go to Auburn. I knew that they had a number of Olympic champions. But it wasn't, they didn't offer me any scholarship. And then I was offered a scholarship at Indiana University, and a really generous offer too. So I was super stoked. Send me the details and I'll sign it and I'll be there. And they went away to conference, and when they came back, they pretty much just stopped responding to my emails. And they did respond and say, look, we signed somebody else. And so now we were in April of 2016, and I was meant to be starting in August, and I didn't have a place to go. And there was actually another Zimbabwean swimmer who swam at UK who told his coach about me. And he reached out to me and said, hey, are you interested in coming to UK? I'm actually coming to South Africa to the nationals next week. I can see you swim. And I met with him the following week for dinner. He watched me swim, and I signed with UK maybe 4 weeks later, and then arrived on campus 4 weeks after that. So it pretty much, once I'd spoken to him, the decision was made, and I got to UK 6 weeks after I had met him. So
how many Zimbabweans are currently within the NCAA system?
I want to say,
is it a large number, or are you guys kind of a small group?
In terms of swimmers, or in terms of just general population, regular?
If you have just a general in all of the NCAA sanctioned events, you can give me that number, or just swimming specifically.
In terms of swimming, I think it's probably 4 or 5 in terms of all sports, it must be a lot. I mean, pretty much the options for Zimbabwean athletes are the US, which is enticing because a lot of it's scholarship based. Another option is Australia, which scholarships are difficult to come by. And then the UK, which most of the athletes that go to the UK are going to be rugby players. So they wouldn't be coming to the US anyway, really. But there are there's definitely a lot of Zimbabwean athletes that come to the US for the athletics. Yeah.
And how did Team Zimbabwe find you?
So, I mean, again, like I grew up in Zim. I mean, my mom is very involved in the swimming community. You know, I think, you know, she has tea with the people in Zimbabwe swimming regularly. She's very involved. So I don't think it was hard to find me.
And what was the first experience with Team Zimbabwe like?
So I think my first meet was to Nigeria, to Port Harcourt. I was 14, I believe. And traveling to Nigeria, I think that there might have been some civil unrest while we were there. This is now, you know, 11 years ago, so I don't remember it super clearly, but there might have been some civil unrest. We were escorted by military vehicles. We couldn't leave the hotel without military personnel. I mean, it was very different to what I had experienced before that. In terms of competing, I swam well. It was definitely a good first step into international competition. Yeah.
And then how many countries, I mean, what was your first experience leaving Zimbabwe? Was it to go to South Africa or was it prior to that?
So my first time leaving Zimbabwe, I was very young. My parents, like I said, we traveled for holidays and stuff regularly. So I'm not sure what my earliest, I mean, like my first passport was like a baby picture. I didn't even have a signature because I was a baby. So I don't, you know, recall that. But I think my earliest memories of traveling was my family went to Canada for a skiing holiday. And then in terms of competing, I think the first time on Team Zimbabwe was going to Nigeria. But before that, I had made, I think it was like level 2 in South Africa. I had competed. South Africa has like a age group nationals, and then they've got like some levels below that. So you've got level 3, which is like nationals, and then you've got level 2 and then level 1. So I think level 2 was my first competition outside of Zimbabwe.
And when was the first time you came to the United States?
So two of my sisters came to the US for university. My middle sister, she came on a running scholarship. So I think for my dad's 55th birthday, we did a trip up and we like met up with her, and then we traveled a bit around America. So that was 2014, I think. So my dad's 50th birthday, I think it was actually. Getting up there.
And then what were the societal and cultural differences between the United States and Zimbabwe and South Africa? I mean, were they stark, or did you kind of fit in right away?
Yeah, so I think it was really good for me going to boarding school in South Africa first, because it was like a small step, you know, from, you know, kind of similar to British culture in Zimbabwe, and then moving to boarding school in South Africa was the first time I was like living amongst people that weren't similar to me, you know. Then when I came to the US, it was a very big adjustment. You know, from small things like, you know, nonverbal communication, which is big in, you know, in Zimbabwe. You know, a lot of our communication style is nonverbal. Coming to America, where it's very much a verbal communication style. You know, a lot of things getting lost in translation. You know, people not understanding my accent. I used to speak a lot quicker. So, even to be fair, even my own family would miss some things. So when I had a really big accent, and then I was speaking fast in America, a lot of people didn't understand what I was saying. So it was very difficult adjustment that first year. And then in terms of swimming, it was enormous adjustment because the training level that's expected in South Africa is just not even near what is at a college level here. So, I mean, my first practice, I was struggling to keep up with even the worst girls on the team. Like I couldn't keep up with them. So, the expectations for training are much higher here.
And then that didn't seem to be an issue for you though, because you ended up setting Kentucky school records.
Yeah, so it was kind of strange. When I got recruited, I was recruited as a 50, like a relay butterflyer, and then a 100 butterflyer. And I think my coach at the time had hopes that I would swim the 200 butterfly and maybe the 200 freestyle. When I arrived, I showed early promise in the sprint freestyle, and I really have always enjoyed sprinting. I like the attention to detail that is required for sprinting. So I think at the first race meet that we went to, which was our mid-season in 2016, I swam at 20.1. And that was the first sign that maybe instead of having me instead of trying to get me to swim the butterfly events and swim a more distance, let's focus on the sprints. And then senior year, I got my coach left, and we got a new coach in who was really good sprint coach, and his attention to detail and his coaching style was like a perfect match for me. So together we worked really well, and I improved a lot my senior year because of that.
Can you talk me through the difference regarding mental health resources at an SEC school versus a boarding school in South Africa versus learning to swim in Zimbabwe?
Yeah. So, I mean, mental health is not even discussed. I mean, I would say mental health is in Africa is probably where America was, 40, 50 years ago. I mean, we're not even having a discussion yet about it. Looking back in high school, I knew teammates and friends that were having telltale signs of struggling with mental health, and it wasn't even discussed. So it's not even like there wasn't resources, there wasn't even an awareness of the mental health aspect. In terms of like an ACC school, I mean, I never used any of the resources, but I know that it's really, really accessible. I know of a number of athletes that have used it extensively and found it to be very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge difference, because the United States is becoming so mental health savvy.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting to just kind of compare those three distinct places and cultures in your life. Even if you don't have reason or need to go to the resources that Kentucky had, they were still there for you, and you had them at your disposal.
Yeah, and so I know South Africa is starting to have that conversation, and it's definitely being led by the international discussion about it. So seeing someone like Simone Biles, cancel out of an event in Africa, that's not even something you could bring up. I can't even imagine having that kind of conversation with my coach in South Africa. So not that my coach is harsh or anything like that. It's just it's not even discussed. And then coming to the US, where you have coaches who are asking about your, like, if you have a bad day and you didn't really perform at practice, pulling you aside and saying, hey, what's going on, how's school going, what's going on, like I noticed today you're a bit sluggish, like do you have lifestyle stress affecting your training? I mean, we had these conversations, and at first I was kind of confused because like it was so different to what I was used to. It was, growing up where it's like you just got to get the job done, to let's do the job and let's do it as efficiently and as healthily as we can. So that was a really big adjustment. Yeah. A good adjustment.
Yeah, for sure. What was the most difficult part of being a student athlete in America?
I think so. Definitely the student part for me. I was not academic in high school. I often joke with my coworkers now because a lot of my teachers in high school, they had seen. So my high school, Chad Leclerc, who was an Olympic gold medalist, he was a senior when I was a freshman in high school. So they saw him, get to the highest level and earn a bunch of money, and I guess they thought that it was okay if I didn't do well academically because I could make do with the athletics. So I would sleep in class and teachers would just let me, and I wouldn't do homework and teachers would leave it be. South Africa has a matric system, so it's graded differently to how America grades. But at the end of your high school, to get into the United States, you have to send your grades to a clearinghouse, and they convert your schooling into a GPA. And the minimum GPA required for a University of Kentucky student, like just to get in the doors, is a 2.2. And I got into UK with a 2.206. So I had the bare minimum to get into the university. And a large part, I don't think I was unintelligent. It was just I had never applied myself. I'd never really been interested in school. When I got to UK, I was suddenly really aware of the opportunity that I had, opportunity to do something more than swimming. I also realized that at the level that I could achieve, it was unlikely that I was going to earn any significant money. So I knew that I had to start thinking, what's my life going to look like after my swimming career, and start focusing on that. So adjusting to learning to study, and that was a big adjustment. And I graduated with a 3.796, and I just passed my last CPA exam, so I'm going to be a CPA. So it's not like I'm unintelligent. It's just very different start, I guess.
So you graduated with 2 degrees. Yes.
Yeah, finance, Bachelor of Science in Accounting, and a Bachelor of Business Administration in Finance.
I'd say you took advantage of the opportunity you were presented with.
Yes, definitely. I had to.
And then you're working currently in the United States. Do you have any plans to go back and work in Zimbabwe, or are you US bound now?
I'm hoping to stay in the US, with visas and things always changing. Still navigating that process, but if it's possible, I'd definitely like to stay in the US. I work in tax now, so the US tax laws is going to be very different to anything I do anywhere else. So I would rather not learn a whole new system and just stay here. Yeah.
And then work me through qualifying for Tokyo. I mean, how far ahead of time did that training start? And then what was it like to be on the list?
Yeah, so I first realized that I might have a chance in 2016, after my first semester of college. I had improved so much that the trajectory seemed maybe slightly out of reach, but definitely possible. And then in 2019, early 2019, they came out with the qualifying process. For Zimbabwe, it's a bit different to America, where because we don't have athletes qualifying on an A standard. If you qualify on a B standard, you can go. So for me, that was a 22.66. And then in the July of 2019, at World Championships in South Korea, I swam at 22.77. So I missed the Olympic cut by just a tenth. So about as close as I could get to it without breaking it. And then my senior year, I improved dramatically with my new coach. So at conference my senior year, I broke the school record, and we were preparing for NCAAs, and then we were looking at meet opportunities for after NCAAs to get the qualifying time. And obviously COVID hit, so we didn't go to NCAAs, and I didn't have access to a pool for 3 months, and I only started training back with the university team once I was vaccinated in April. I think it was March, April, somewhere around there. And so I was now out of shape and trying to get this qualifying time. And I trained with the university team, I think for like 2 or 3 months. We went to a qualifying meet in Atlanta. I didn't get the time. I missed it by 0.3. And so to me, I pretty much knew that the only chance left for me was to get what's called a wild card. And Zimbabwe is traditionally given a wild card, but there's so much discretion, and nobody really knows. You can't be confident that we were going to get one this year. The announcement was made that there was going to be a wild card given to Zimbabwe, and the selection would be based on FINA points. So in swimming, 1,000 FINA points is the world record, and then based on an algorithm, it's like 1 split second off the world record or 2 split seconds off the world record will be 999 points. So it just came to whoever has the highest FINA points for Zimbabwe. So I was selected, and I got to compete under the wildcard system.
And you're very familiar with the FINA system. In 2016, you were the first man to represent Team Zimbabwe at the World Championship.
Yeah,
so they knew your name.
Yeah. So in 2016, in 2019, when I qualified for, I was the first person to qualify for the World Championships point system, but there had been other athletes that had made it based on the wildcard system for World Champs, and then I wasn't the the guy that came before me. He was also very good. I think he just missed it by a couple tenths. So it wasn't like I was like this big step up for Zimbabwe. There's been a couple before me that kind of paved the way.
And then, did you talk to those athletes going into Tokyo about their experiences?
Yeah. So the guy that spoke to the coach to recruit me to the University of Kentucky, he went to the 2016 Olympics for Zimbabwe. So he was a huge inspiration to me. I swam with, so my freshman year, he was a senior. I swam with him for that year. He was a really good athlete, but also like a really good teammate. He, taught me a lot about my performance, and just a genuinely awesome guy. And he actually gave me the cap that he wore at the Olympics, so that I could take it with me to the next Olympics. And we chatted a bunch about the process, and just like about the pressure of competing at that level. And he was a really great resource for me the whole way through. Yeah.
And then you get to Tokyo, and you don't get to the semifinals. Was that difficult for you? I mean, you're finally there, and it just doesn't work out?
So, like I said before, I went on a wild card. Swimming is quite a nice sport where you kind of know where you're going to land up. Unless you do something really special, which is, at the Olympics, it's probably not going to be the meet that you suddenly have a breakout swim. So going into the meet, I kind of knew I was looking at the 40 to 50th, sort of zone. I think I was seeded 51st. So, semifinals wasn't really in my side picture. Really, I wanted to go best time. Based on my training, I couldn't really expect much more for myself. Even asking, for a best time was a bit of a reach. The 8 months leading up to the Olympics, I was working full time and training in the evenings. So my training wasn't like it was when I was in college, where you train the maximum amount and then everything else kind of packs in. It was the opposite, where I had life and work, and I was trying to squeeze training in around. So my goal was to go best time, and I wasn't really aiming for a semifinal performance. So when I finished and had improved my time and improved my standings, I was really happy with that. That's about as much as I could have hoped for.
So you said 40s to 50s. You ended up at 42 with a personal best and a national record. I'd say that's a successful outing.
Yeah, I was really pleased, especially considering that the year I had a training and I was really focused on competing in the 50 freestyle. That was always my best event. That's the event that I hold the university record in. And because I didn't qualify for the B cut, when it came to the wildcard selection, they decide based on FINA points, and it just happened that my 100 freestyle technically had higher FINA points. So 3 weeks out from the Olympics, I found out that I was swimming double the distance that I was meant to be swimming. So it was a huge shift, trying to get some more fitness in before we start taper. And in a 50, you don't really have that much race strategy. It's just swim as fast as you can go, and attention to detail. On the 100, you now have to have pacing and a bit of control, especially in that first 20 to 30 meters, because if you push a little bit too hard, you'll fall off at the end, and if you go a little bit too slow, it's hard to pick up momentum. So a lot of the race strategy I had to adjust, so I was really pleased that I even got anywhere near the record, and then to break it was really special. Yeah.
You said 3 weeks ahead of the Olympics.
Yeah.
You realized that you were swimming a totally different distance.
Yeah, it was a terrible way to find out, because I have a notification set on my phone. So anytime there's like an article that mentions me, Google will email me saying, "Hey, this article mentions you," which is really neat. And I got a notification saying that I was mentioned in an article, and I assumed that it was going to be like the short list of this people being selected. And it was the news article announcing the Olympic team for Zimbabwe, and it mentioned Peter Wetzlar swimming 100 freestyle, and I was like, local newspaper, they must have gotten it wrong. And the next a couple hours later, I got an email from the Swimming Federation saying, congratulations, you've been selected for the Olympics, and you'll be swimming the 100 freestyle. And I responded and said, no, you mean the 50 freestyle? And they said, no, we already put the paperwork in, you're swimming the 100 freestyle. It's that's what you're doing, and this is how the selection process goes. And it wasn't clear to me before that, so that was a shock for me for sure. Yeah.
So no one told you?
Yeah, until the newspaper did. Yeah.
And then, what was that first Olympic experience like?
I think this Olympics was maybe had a bit of a damper with the COVID restrictions, we weren't allowed to leave the village. We had to leave within 48 hours of competing. So in terms of the Olympic experience, I wouldn't say it was like a bad experience. I think it was incredible. I think it was just narrow focus. So, we got to experience the Olympic Village and the competition venues, and the Olympic Village and the competition venues were incredible. I mean, facilities, even coming to America, where facilities at university level are, much nicer than what we have in Africa, to have even a step up from that to go to the Olympics, it was really definitely the best facilities that I'd ever seen in my life. So to compete in that pool was really cool. I definitely would like to go back to Tokyo at some point, travel around the city and experience it. The people there were so incredible. The Japanese people are so kind and welcoming and helpful. It was really special to experience a bit of the culture, even though it was a bit huddled. Yeah.
The US is a pretty solid swimming competition on the world stage. When you got to Tokyo, how many swimmers had you already competed against during college, or did you at least know of?
Oh yeah, I mean, especially US team members. I knew of a bunch of them. Caleb Dressels, he swam at Florida, so my freshman and sophomore year, I was competing against him. He obviously was really good even then. And then there's also a bunch of other nationalities that have come to the United States for university that I was competing against, from Serbia to Egypt to Australia, a bunch of my peers that were, US based, but competing for other countries. So it was really cool to walk on deck, and it was kind of like it was like conference, where you can see all your mates. It was really fun. Yeah.
And then Paris 2024, are you going?
I didn't think so.
Is your swim career over?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be done. I think the amount of commitment that I gave to the sport. I think competing at a high level in any sport, to be the best, you're going to make sacrifices that are not sustainable. And in terms of lifestyle stress and the effect on my health, I don't think I can maintain that for another 3 years. So I definitely think, at the level that I got to, I'm really proud of. And I think for my genetic potential and my talent potential, maybe I could aim for 26th or 23rd or 19th, or maybe even sneak into a semifinal. But the marginal benefit to making a semifinal is not there. So I'm really happy with where I got to and what that means.
I mean, you were only one of 5 athletes that Zimbabwe sent to Tokyo. How important was that as a milestone for you and also for your country?
Yeah, it was really special because, Zimbabwe, a population of 15 million, to have the support of 15 million people just on 5 athletes. I think in America, where you've got, hundreds of athletes, winning gold medals. And if you're, even if you're a silver medalist or a gold medalist for America, you're kind of one of many, So to have the support of an entire country just on the 5 of us was really special. I got hundreds of messages, supporting me and congratulating me, and just people saying that they're proud of, to be seeing a Zimbabwean there. So that was really, really, really special. Yeah.
And then when you left Tokyo and you came back to Zimbabwe, what was your reception in person?
Yeah, so I was, already working for the company that I work for now, and so I got time off, went to the Olympics, competed, and came straight back to the States to carry on working. So I didn't get that, welcome back until December when I went home for Christmas. And when I arrived, it was really special. My parents organized a function at our house where We had, a bunch of my, childhood friends and families, and pretty much, the community that had supported me, from when I was a kid all the way through. My mom's, Bible study, friends, and the swimming community, and it was really special to, be able to thank all the people that had helped me get to where I got. Yeah.
And then did you struggle with athlete identity after you had gone to Tokyo and then you had effectively kind of ended your career on that note?
I think it's very difficult not to go through that. I was quite lucky in the sense that when I was really young, I think, maybe 14, I realized that, or I had seen a number of athletes that had done really well, and then, finished competing and had that problem of, who am I if I'm not the athlete? Who am I if I'm not, the Olympian or the gold medalist or whatever? And I started thinking about that whole process when I was young, and I read a couple of books about, athletes being done competing, and I can't remember where it was from, but one of the pieces of advice was, be very careful about how you define yourself to both yourself and to other people, and try not to define yourself by the things that you're good at. So, I'm an accountant now. I try not to define myself as Peter the accountant. I try to define myself as, as somebody that's kind, that's that puts out more good into the world than bad, and I'm hardworking, and the characteristics that are internal rather than performance based. Because with anything, if you're really good at it, almost certainly there'll come a time where you're not the best at it. So even before the Olympics became an option for me, I was already starting to define myself by things that weren't performance-based. And then with the Olympics being postponed, and I started working, and the demand that it took to both train and to work, I realized that this was not sustainable. It was unhealthy, and so I knew that at the end of the Olympics, that it was time. The Olympics was an achievement that any athlete's dream. So there was not much more to achieve. I didn't feel like my career was cut short. I was very happy with my performance, and even if it had been a bad performance, I think I was ready to move on to the next step of my life.
So you said that what you were doing was not only unsustainable, but it was just becoming an issue for your life.
Yeah.
Why?
So I work in public accounting, and public accounting is pretty cyclical. But even during quiet months, you're still working significantly more than a regular job. So, there'll be months where I'll be working, 60-hour weeks, and then trying to train 20 hours on top of that. As well as being mindful of your eating and recovery. Sorry about that. I don't have it. I'll start that one over again. Could you ask the question again? So I think I got it.
Yeah, just why did you feel as though training was detrimental to your health?
I work in public accounting right now, which requires more time commitment than most jobs. So there would be months where I'd be working, upwards of 60 hours, and then also trying to fit in, 15, 20 hours of training, trying to maintain my diet and recovery. And with training, there's a belief that lifestyle stress can increase fatigue. So if you're just an athlete and you're just focusing on your performance and everything's 100%, having an external lifestyle stress like a death in the family or a friend's sickness or work pressure can directly affect your physical performance. For me, it would be in the pool. So trying to maintain a really high stressful job and swimming at a high level was very difficult. I ended up getting shingles, and my hair was falling out and my nails weren't growing. It was really a stressful time for me. So the external load was just not sustainable. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So.
And then how do you figure swimming into the rest of your life? And is it in the rest of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason why I did well at swimming is because I love swimming. I mean, even now, I love being in the water. I love the feeling of efficiency of the glide, of pushing the envelope of my aerobic ability. I really enjoy that that work process. So I don't think I'll ever truly stop swimming. I still swim now. I swim down at my local YMCA, and I enjoy it. I'm just training on my own, but I don't think that I'll ever stop swimming altogether. I think it's just deciding what level to train at, and that's healthy and sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, swimming is one of those sports where even if you're not doing it competitively, you can continue to do that sport for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
How does your training differ now that you are not looking at Olympic development?
Yeah, so this was something I struggled with a lot when I first finished, competitively training, because I was so used to we need to push to the absolute maximum, just barely, brink of failure. You can't do anything unless it's the maximum. So, going back into, regular life now, to go to the gym or to go to the pool, I still had the mentality of, let me push myself as hard as I can. Because it becomes so ingrained, the ethic of why do anything unless you're going to do it to the maximum, and I don't think it's healthy for your tendons or your body or your muscles long term. So it took an adjustment period where I went from let me do this bench press until failure to, hey, let me just do leave 2 or 3 reps in the tank and know that my shoulder health is going to be there in 10 years time. When I was competing, I had physical therapists and trainers and a whole team of people around me to keep me healthy and to keep my body functioning. And now, just in regular life, like if I have a shoulder injury, now that means I can't gym for 3 weeks because I have to, I can't go to the physio every day, like I could. Now I go to the physio once and then get some prehab, and it's a 3 or 4 week healing process. So I'm much more cognizant of the health aspect. I'm exercising to stay healthy, and I'm doing a bit more compound lifting. So squat, bench, that kind of thing, much more than the cardio base. So before I was competing, I was doing quite a bit of cardio. Swimming's a cardio-based sport, so that makes sense. Whereas now, I probably lift more than I do weight training more than I do cardio training, which is the difference.
And then there are some athletes that I've talked to on this podcast who have gone to the Olympics and then have immediately fallen into kind of a mental health struggle stemming from being at the best in the world and then suddenly going back to either regular competition or ending their careers in that way. Did you see that happen to you or something similar?
I don't think so. When I got back from Tokyo, I had a lot of external lifestyle stress that I was more focused on. So I never, I didn't really have time or like the access to focus on the fact that my career was ending. I do think that getting therapy or psychological help is definitely valuable. I did a couple sessions with the therapist just to talk through the end of a stage in my life, but I never, like I said before, I never really defined myself as a top athlete or as I try to avoid that. So not that I was, a medalist or anything like that. So I knew, I was very aware that who I was not tied to a performance outcome. So if I wasn't getting the performance outcome now by not being an athlete, it didn't mean that I was not, I couldn't find a definition for myself.
And then what does the future look like for you?
Yeah, it's quite exciting. I'm not entirely sure. So I work in public accounting. I think I'm gonna stick here for a couple of years. Enjoy all the time that I have, all the freedoms to try new things. A lot of being an athlete means making sacrifices on small things that you wouldn't even think of, like oh, your friend got a skateboard. I probably shouldn't ride that because if I fall and break my arm, that's my season's over. So going out, ice skating. I haven't been ice skating since I was a kid because the risk of injury, ice skating is quite high. So I'd avoid that. So now I'm, getting into enjoying, trying new hobbies, trying out things. And I picked up golf. I quite enjoy golf and, just trying out a bunch of different things and, maybe enjoy, the regular life.
So what are some other hobbies that you've picked up that you were not allowed to?
Well, again, like nothing was not allowed. I've never had somebody saying, hey, you can't, go do X, Y, Z, but it was kind of self-imposed, the risk or the motivation wasn't there. So, if you finished a 3-hour practice on Saturday, you don't want to go for a hike. Whereas now, I wake up Saturday morning, I'm full of energy. I can do whatever I want. It's the same as golf. Like golf's not, dangerous, but it's a 4-hour commitment in the sun. That's directly going to affect your recovery over a weekend. You don't want to be, sitting out in the sun and getting more tired after you've done a really intense practice. So it was not, so it wasn't so much a decision not to do things. It was more, does this align with my goals? If it doesn't, it's not an option. I've gone hiking a bunch of times. I quite enjoy hiking. I've tried ice skating. It was fun. I wasn't very good. I played in the men's water polo league, which I was terrible at. Just trying out new things as much as I can, really.
And then do you have anything else that you think that I missed about your life, your experiences, your story?
Give me a minute to think.
Yeah, of course. We have officially reached the end of the questions I had prepared. So this is normally the time of the interview where I say, if there's anything I missed that you would like to talk about, the floor is yours.
I think in terms of like advice that I could maybe give if there's someone's listening,
Sure.
I think what I said earlier, don't define yourself by what you're good at. Define yourself as what is inside of you. So the goodness that you are, or the characteristics inside of you. Your work ethic or your kindness or um, uh, things like that. In terms of performance-based, I think if you're focused on a goal that's going to be that's going to require a lot of effort or discipline, it's much easier to do if you're passionate about it. So yeah, I'm never going to be a great golfer because I'm not passionate about it. I was a good swimmer because I was super passionate about it. I enjoy golf, but I couldn't do it every day because I'm not super into it. So when I was swimming, and we were training 20, 30 hours a week, the first 15 hours I was enjoying myself. The last 15 hours, maybe I wasn't enjoying myself. But if you don't enjoy the first hour, by the time you get to hour 30, you hate your life. So if you enjoy what you're doing, do it. But if you really don't enjoy what you're doing, the chances of you being highly successful in it is very slim because there's somebody else out there that's really enjoying what they're doing. And the first 15 hours when they're doing it is going to be a breeze because they're so enjoying what they're doing. So find what you're passionate about and pursue that rather than doing what's popular or what pays, or that would be the biggest piece of advice I can give.
I think that's a very solid piece of advice. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that you think that I missed asking about in the interview? If there's not, that's fine too. This is normally protocol.
Yeah. You've done a great job in talking about boarding school. Yeah, I mean, both my parents were athletes. My mom was a sprint hurdler, and my dad was a really good rugby player. So my family has been pretty athletic growing up. But yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, and then this interview will come out on February 16th. So just a little under a month. If there's anything between now and then that you can think of that you'd like me to include, anything upcoming for you that we can support, any foundations you'd like to support, I can put all of that information in the show notes.
Cool.
Just you have a month, so like there's really no rush, but yeah.
Definitely. My sister, my parents are really involved in this charity that helps orphanages in Zimbabwe. So I might try and get the link for that and send it over.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to look into that.
Cool. Yeah. And then would you be able to send me like a draft before, or like, is it possible for me to hear it before it like goes live?
Yeah, I mean, I can send you the script if you want to look over that. I mean, it's not going to be any different than what we talked about today.
Yeah,
it's not going to be.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's just sometimes when I've done 1 or 2 interviews like this, and then afterwards I hear myself speak and I'm like, damn, I did not pronunciate for half of this talk. So if you're going through it and like there's sections where I'm not like clear or my speaking's not clear, let me know and we can call and maybe repeat what I said or something like that, just because I'm sure you're gonna listen and you're like, what did he say there?
No, honestly, I never a single time had that issue.
The accent sometimes it gets a little bit like, especially when I'm excited about something or passionate about something, it gets like it gets really heavy.
Yeah, you prefaced this interview by saying, I just talk really fast and no one can understand me. And then I understood every single thing you were saying. So I don't foresee that being an issue. And then if you can also send me a picture of you either swimming or something that is you representing Zimbabwe or Kentucky, just a picture I can use for social media. And then this will all come out on the 16th of February. And we'll be in touch then.
Super. Sounds good.
Oh, also one more thing that I wanted to ask you. The post that I found you on Instagram, you had the Instagram caption, "Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway."
Yeah.
That's a great quote.
That I think is the full quote is full quote is this famous Lady Nightingale, is that right? What's the it was like, let me give you that actually. Mother Teresa, Lady Nightingale, Mother Teresa. But it's people are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do good. So it's like kind of paraphrasing that. And then it goes on to say, give the world your best, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway. For you see, in the end, it's not between you and them, it's between you and God. Yeah, Mother Teresa quote. I've always liked it.
I thought that was really nice, and also a nice way to wrap up your Olympic experience.
Yeah. If you're ever looking for some good quotes, let me know, because I've always enjoyed like things like that, where it's like a nice way to phrase something, or it's good stuff. Yeah.
And then you can just, I don't know, DM me the picture that you would like to be used. You have a month, so it's really not a stress, but just by the 16th.
Sounds good. I can do that.
And then if there's anything else that you can think of between now and then, just DM me. I can include it.
Sounds good. Perfect.
Thank you so much for
Thanks for having me on.
Hanging with me for an hour-ish.
Yeah, no problem at all. That's good fun.
And then I'll get back in touch with you once this episode is live.
Perfect. Super. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.